Welcome, everybody, to the first volleyball podcast. My name is Robert Birch. I'm the owner of BDS Recruiting, and we are here to provide you a service that is free, that is easy to understand, to help parents and athletes navigate the recruiting world ahead of us. And we're going to have a series of podcasts with coaches, with players, with college players, with some creators, with some people that can help with NIL ideas. We're here as a free resource to help you guys improve your chance at getting recruited and getting on to play that next level. We have a great guest lined up today with Charlie Olson, the former ULM coach, former Sam Houston State assistant and University of Tennessee assistant. He was an expert recruiter. That was his main focus, and we're excited to have him on. He'll join us here in just a minute. But anytime you guys have questions, please feel free to shoot us a message. You can check me out on Instagram at BDS Recruits, and you can email me at bdsrecruiting10@gmail.com. We can help set up profiles. We can help get parents to understand what their role is, what the direction is, all those good things, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to do this for free. We're not asking for money. We're not asking for sponsorships. We are totally above the board, free help to help you get to the next level. Started this years ago helping my daughter get recruited, and several of her teammates realized that it was a challenge for a lot of parents, and we just want to provide advice and help for you guys. Welcoming to join us is Coach Charlie Olson, former coach for ULM, Sam Houston State, and University of Tennessee. I want to share a little something here just for good old time's sake. There he is. Young lad coaching, volunteer coach at the University of Tennessee.
That's pre kids.
Well, yeah, you got a happy smile, no facial hair.
And well rested.
Yeah. So it's been a little different since then, since those days. Of course, if I went back that far in time, I would look a little different too. So happy to have you on. For those that don't know, this is our second attempt at it because I forgot to record yesterday's version. So hopefully I do a better job today. We'll get right into it again. We're going to go 30 minutes at most. Be respectful of your time and listeners' time. Give a little background on how you got started from your playing career to your club coaching to college and where you are now.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Charlie Olson. I work with Rally Volleyball currently, based out of Atlanta, Georgia. Grew up playing the game in high school. We had boys volleyball at our high school out in California, so sanctioned boys volleyball, which was awesome. And then got into the collegiate club circuit at Chico State back in the early 2000s, and then jumped right into club coaching right after that. Coached club volleyball for probably about 10 to 12 years, various clubs from out in California to Arizona, Virginia Beach area. And then one of my good buddies convinced me to get into the collegiate coaching game. My first step was a volunteer assistant at the Vols of Tennessee. So seasoned with them. And then my first paid gig at Sam Houston State University in Huntsville, Texas. Was there for 6 years as the assistant coach recruiting coordinator, working with Coach Gray, who's still there. And then I took over the realm of the reins at ULM in Monroe, Louisiana, as head coach of both indoor and beach in 2019. So coached through COVID, which was interesting to say the least. And then wrapped up my final season there in 2022 before taking over the role that I currently have as beach operations director with Rally Volleyball.
So what is Rally Volleyball? Just to get an overview of the.
Good question. So we play tournament host, both indoor and beach. My role with Rally is all things beach, but we also host indoor events in the greater Atlanta area, mostly a club, but then within the beach realm, we host a handful of collegiate conference championships, as well as the ABCA Pairs National Championship in November in Huntsville, Texas, every single year.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you are passionate about what I wanted to discuss today, and the same thing that I'm passionate about is helping these athletes and parents get through the recruiting landscape. I first met you when my daughter was going through that, and as I will tell anybody and still do. By the way, Coach Jesse Ortiz said hi. Talked to him yesterday. He said, big fan, great guy. And you are one of the most honest guys and personable guys that I met in this whole process. And so I'm honored to have you on our first show. Cool. And, the main thing to dive into is, there's a lot of noise out there about recruiting. There's a lot of noise out of, you got to have this service, you got to have this, you got to have that. And what my goal is to do is show parents and players that they really control the process and they can do it themselves without spending a ton of money. There's a lot of services out there. Some of them are good, honest services that do provide some help, and they have a cost to them, but they're reasonable. You have some that honestly are saying, hey, give us $3,500, $4,000. We're going to get your kid recruited. And, it turned me, when I was helping with the process with my daughter, really away from that stuff. And then we had some kids on our team that parents really just didn't have an idea, and helped including my daughter, 5 of her teammates, with their process, getting offers and kind of what to say, what to do. I coached baseball for 29 years and played in college myself. So I had the experience of that recruiting scene, but it's changed and evolved so much. It's even changed and evolved since 2024. So what's your number one advice to give to parents and athletes?
First and foremost, enjoy the process, right? And it is a process. It shouldn't be transactional. And the way the landscape is changing within NCAA and with NIL and all the shenanigans that have happened over the last few years, it's forcing or trending transactional. And most programs, especially within volleyball, is still process driven. So we, recruits, athletes think about, all right, well, where am I going to get this paycheck from? Where am I going to get this scholarship from? And that's leaning towards football, basketball, right? That's where these NIL checks are going. You have to kind of sift through the noise, but really enjoy the process. And the process is going to be different for every single student athlete. No two processes, no two recruitment journeys are the same. Athletes can start as young as, freshman year in high school. They're allowed to do certain things. Whereas college coaches still have to follow the rules of what they're doing. But really, just enjoy the process. I mean, it should be fun. And just take ownership over it, ask lots of questions, and reach out to individuals like yourself who want to help those navigate the process.
Yeah, it really can be a fun process if you control it and don't get so worked up on, I've sent out 1,000 emails, I haven't gotten a response back. You had when we did our first version of this, you had a great response to that when I said it, and it was send 1,001. Just keep going, because it is a challenge for coaches that have so many kids to look at and so many kids to go through. But if you're not, and in my real life, I've worked in marketing most of my life, and you got to just keep pushing stuff in that tube. Something will fall out at the end at some point, but you got to have a roadmap and you got to have a game plan, and that's where we kind of try to help set that. Because like you said, everybody's process is different, but the basics are the same. You got to decide what level you want to go to, and everybody falls into the D1 trap. Got to be D1, and but you got to really decide what you want. Are you going for an education? Are you going just to play volleyball? Are you going for the whole college experience? what is it that you're really looking for? So talk a little bit about the difference between, that you see between Division I, II, and III and NAIA.
Yeah, it's rules heavy, Division One, and then it gets a little less strict as you go down. But the level of play is still very high within every division, and even NAIA. I mean, some of these top tier programs at every single division play volleyball at an extremely high level. It's just going to be a little bit different from an academics focus as you get into like D3 model, as opposed to some of the Division One, programs that exist that are out there. With the ever changing landscape of NCAA rules, and like we already mentioned, the NIL rollout last few years. Student athletes really need to broaden their funnel and maybe be open to some schools that maybe they didn't even know that existed. That was a big thing that I pitched when I was at ULM. It's like, maybe we're the diamond in the rough school, the best school you've never heard of before. And that's a very similar message that I explained to some of those student athletes that I had recruited and played for me at ULM that were looking to transfer after I'd gotten let go. And I was like, look at some Division II options. You guys could kill it. We had a starting libero that ended up making a run for the Final Four at D2 and had a great experience. She lost one match her senior year. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So a very different type of experience. But there are a lot of good programs that are out there at every single level.
Yeah, and it's tough to get tied into I got to have a D1 offer. I got to go to a D1 school, and you may go to a D1 school that is not a winning program. And if you are a high caliber talent that is a D1 talent, and you go from a winning club program or a winning high school program, and then you suddenly have to deal with the challenge of fighting through the lower ranks of in your conference, that can be disheartening. And you also may sit there and sit for 3 years before you get your chance to play because of the changes that have gone on. And you may be sitting there for 3 years, and they may get a kid from Nebraska that decided to transfer out because they weren't playing enough, or they just wanted to maybe relax a little bit and not be at that same pressure. And suddenly you're going into your third year thinking, all right, this is my year. And oops, here's a 6'5" outside from Nebraska that just decided to transfer, and we got her. You got to be prepared for those things. But at the Division II level, it is just as competitive. It is just as talented of athletes, in my opinion. It's just you can only fill so many Division I spots.
Right.
So how do you think the two big changes that I think that really affect volleyball is not necessarily the NIL side of it. Like you said, that's more of a basketball, football thing. There's things you can do. But the biggest changes have been the transfer portal and the freedom within it to just transfer as many times as you want to, and the roster limits that have come out. So speak on that a little bit from your perspective.
Yeah, so I still have a lot of peers that are collegiate coaches, and the model, the recruiting model has shifted to more of the portal game. So successful teams, historically speaking, in the last couple of years, have had older players, right? So you got a lot of grad students, a lot of seniors. Programs are still recruiting freshmen. However, they're more apt to have an impact player who's already been playing college for 4 years, 3 years, right? As opposed to the incoming freshman who still probably has to take some time to understand the ins and outs of being a Division I athlete or Division II athlete, high level, right? So it is a challenge as a high school recruit because not only are there a finite number of spots available at programs, well, now that number's even smaller because of the transfer portal, because that's what teams are probably going to fill their roster limits with first. And then they'll subsidize it with the incoming freshmen. So instead of having a freshman class of say 5 kids, now due to roster limits and transfer portal, pickups, maybe that number's down to 2 or 3, and
Yeah.
that really is challenging for some of these student athletes, high school student athletes, that are looking to go play for a big Division I program. So
Yeah. And the thing that, all the NIL stuff has really caused is it has put a stress on athletic budgets, period. You look at, Rutgers in the Big Ten having a $74 million loss on their books for just this year. And it goes back year. I mean, they're a lot deeper than that. And that's a Big Ten school. Tons of TV money, tons of conference money, and struggling in a big market. You've had several Division I schools that have dropped down all the way to Division III and NAIA because they just don't want to mess with it because, what are they there for? They're there for academics in the school. The sport should enhance that. And I think that's the thing everybody's got to, kind of keep in context, especially with volleyball. But what it's done at some schools, whereas 2 years ago I'd look at benches and you'd have 20 plus players on the bench. And not all on the bench, but playing and on the bench. Now you're looking at teams that have 16, maybe 17, that aren't even getting to that 18 cap because, the changes with, you can offer everybody a scholarship now, you can, it's, with all that changing, it is put a strain on, okay, how are we going to use our budget? Are we going to use our budget and have 2 extra players, 3 extra players, or are we going to focus on 16 instead of 18? And it puts a strain because you have injuries and things like that. You better have a good 16. But it's a different landscape, and I think over the next couple years it's going to settle out a little bit. You finally got the COVID players out of there. I sent you a thing yesterday about a football player that was granted his 11th season. He was recruited under the Obama administration, and that's just lunacy. But that's something that the high school players now have to compete with, and I think you're going to see the junior colleges become much more prevalent. Yep. And there should never be a stigma for going to a junior college or NAIA Division III, II, whatever, because it's about an opportunity to play the game longer and to keep going and keep thriving and to get an education and hopefully get a lot of it paid for. So those are one of the things that really have been affecting what's going on now. Now, you are tied into a side of volleyball that I'm not. I've never been really involved in it, but talk a little bit about, because we've had some really good beach volleyball players come out of Arkansas in the last couple of years, but it's not got the exposure that indoor volleyball has with all the tournaments and everything. Talk a little bit about beach and the pathways for college there.
Yeah. So with the rise of beach volleyball programs, say over the past 10 years, it was the fastest growing sport at one point due to the popularity from the Olympics, and it afforded that many more opportunities for volleyball players to play collegiately. Maybe they are undersized, or they were one of the many million DSs that are out there, or they're a late developer. So these are athletes who benefit most from beach volleyball. But then now, because the sport is so popular, you start to see these beach clubs that are training beach all 24/7, 365. They're 12 months a year. No longer part of anything indoor. So you have a couple different types of players, but the opportunities collegiately, you'll see these at D1, D2, D3, NAIA. So it does afford those types of opportunities. You're still getting that collegiate athletic experience, and there are scholarships available. So it really does help some of these volleyball players. From the small percentage that actually gets to go play collegiately, it gives them another chance to do that. And yeah, the game is different. The vibe is different in the sand. But some of those skills are transferable, whether you're indoor or beach, from a ball control, communication, standpoint. Um, the bench is smaller potentially. More players compete. You get 6 to 7 players on the court at any given time, right? With six in the libero. Well, if you're doing dual format and in the beach collegiate landscape, you got 10 kids playing, 12 kids with the exhibition. So there's more opportunities to play and compete at the collegiate level within beach. So
And I think nationally or universally, I think when people think volleyball, a lot of times they think beach first. But as far as the actual sport, and both sides have grown tremendously. I think both are at the tops of the fastest growing sports in women's sports. And men's is growing as well. But you look at it again, it's an opportunity to play. It's an opportunity to get that college experience and get it paid for, and it's an exciting game. I mean, beach they're exciting in different ways. And they're fun to watch. It makes my knees hurt every time I watch beach because I think one of mine would just blow out. But let's go back to the parent student role in recruiting, because I think this is the biggest key right now is how involved should the parent be? How involved obviously the player, like you said when we talked yesterday, should be leading the charge. It's their career ahead of them. But what's some advice you can give them on kind of starting with that broad list and narrowing it down, whether they should go to camps or not, because it costs, on average for a good club, you're talking $3,000 to $5,000 a year. And that's not counting all the travel. You're talking, if they're going to go to 3 elite camps during the summer at schools that they're interested in, the elite prospect camps, you're talking $500, and travel, depending on where they go. So what's your suggestion on how to kind of manage that and wisely spend your time and money to do that?
Yeah, it is a tricky landscape to navigate. That is for sure. And I'm not there yet with my children, but we'll get there eventually. And it's asking those very, very tough questions to the schools. Where do we stand on your list? Where are we? And some programs will be brutally honest with you. Oh, you're not on our radar, but still come to camp. And others will string you along because maybe you're not in their top 10. But if the other 10 fall through, well, then now you're top on their list. And there's ways to have those conversations, and this is when the parents really need to get involved. Is really helping to fuel those types of conversations. And if the player is involved with the club, well, then maybe you get the club coach or the recruiting director involved with those types of conversations to try to get down to where do we stand really. So then you can, as a family, pick and choose which summer camp to go to, which college ID camp to go to. If you're trying to hit up every single college showcase, if that's your prerogative, then do that. You shouldn't do that, but if that's what you want to do that. The child, the kid who's looking to get recruited, they do need to be the leader of the recruitment process. The parents do need to be involved because you're talking about sometimes a heavy financial burden, depending on which school that you are interested in. And those are important. Those are questions that do need to be asked. But the student athlete does need to be the leader in the charge with guidance from the parents and or the club. So.
Yeah, I think the great thing about this is for the students and for the athletes is this is a learning experience that you're going to go through with every job interview, everything, and so you're learning it in a little bit more exciting stage, and it gets very frustrating at times because there's just times the coaches just don't respond in season. They're trying to keep their job, so you can't get caught up in I'm not getting response, but you made a good point of, hopefully coaches will be honest with you. And that's where the parents, I agree, come in, because the parents are going to be the more grounded ones.
Mm.
A kid getting recruited is eyes wide open. Everything's great. Everything's wonderful. I should, definitely this is where I'm going. And, you got to have the parents to pump the brakes a little bit, keep your powder dry for now. We got decisions to make. So in that, what's your thought? And this is a kind of a fine line because of saying this. What's your thought on a lot of these showcase camps before big tournaments?
I don't love them. And here's why, is because it is a major moneymaker for the event promoter, first and foremost. It does, however, get you in front of potential college coaches, right? You don't get to pick and choose which college coaches are attending. You just know that some might be present. It where there's limitations is that it showcases your skills as they stand right now in drills.
Yeah.
It's not. We talked yesterday about development. Are we getting better? This is where video will showcase your development. Where if I saw an athlete's highlight film from 3 months ago and then watched a new one, do I see improvement? Is there development?
Yeah.
And as a coach, if I'm going to attend that tournament, I might as well just watch her play in the tournament as opposed to at a showcase. Unless there's an opportunity for some interaction where I can maybe see some personality from a recruiting standpoint, how they interact with some of the other players within the showcase that may be different than how they interact with some of their teammates who they may be closer with. So I mean, showcases, I wouldn't attend a ton of them. If you are signing up for them, they are a good experience to go through. There are a handful of quality showcases that do get put on. Just know that the showcase promoters are more than willing to take your money at any given opportunity. So,
Yeah, and keeping on that same thing of keeping things in perspective, we talked yesterday about that 14, 15-year-old age group. They're seeing all the stuff on Instagram, TikTok, and all this of all the players that are at that recruiting level, and they're wanting to get videos out there and email coaches and constantly get. Sometimes as parents we got to step back and say, okay, let's enjoy the process and let's get our kid developed, because the most important thing when they're just getting that coordination at 14, 15 years old, when they're really getting it honed in. That is so key to development, because they can develop bad habits really early. And some kids are just physically impressive at that age. I went through it with kids in baseball. You would have a kid throwing 80 miles an hour, at 14 years old, and you're thinking, oh, this kid's going to be great. Well, at 16, 17, he's throwing 79 because he never worked on his mechanics, or he never, worked on the things he had to work on. And so talk a little bit about that for keeping that in perspective for those younger players.
Yeah, so in another note on showcases, that favors those who developed early, and then they maybe are at their peak already.
Yep.
So from a development standpoint, this is where the video, tournament play, club practices, all the work that you as an athlete are putting in, this will ultimately pay off down the line. And for an athlete who's trying to get recruited, that is why it's okay to send coaches emails with videos at an early age. Okay. Now, if your video is not very good, maybe you wait until you develop a little bit, because that that could also remove you from their list altogether. But if it's good quality film from a 15-year-old, that's like, oh, okay, she's doing some neat things. All right, and then you're then on that coach's radar or that program's radar, and then just continue to stay up with it. That you're let them know that your interest. Oh, both my parents went to this school too. Like, I would love, like, it is a dream of mine to also put on that logo and represent the university. There's so many just different stories. Anyway, from a development standpoint, like, are you getting better every single day? Like that's what coaches, ultimately want to recruit. So,
Right. And, one of the other things is that, and this I had to go through with my kids recruiting, is you got to know who the teams are. You got to do your research. You got to study the teams. You got to know. I mean, we used to go onto the websites and real quick, how important are every school's got them, the tab for recruiting information to fill out. How important is that to a coach?
um, each school's a little different. So some schools, when an athlete submits a recruiting questionnaire,
Mm-hmm.
that information gets uploaded into their athlete tracker. So every school is a little bit different. So that is a way for information to be captured and then ultimately followed through the process, from if they become a student at that university. That information would follow them, or it could be part of their compliance software package, or nothing. It could ultimately be absolutely nothing. It's just a way of, it operates in the gray area where it's okay for coaches to send out that information, to send out camp information, to say, hey, I'm interested in you, fill this out, right? That is okay for coaches to do, even when the kids are a little bit younger. So
Yeah, and there's different, like you said, there's different rules, different levels. One of the things I've encouraged, 16-year-old players at the beginning of that 16-year-old year, not the June 15th time, but beforehand, is they can talk to NAIA coaches at any time.
yeah,
I think they can talk to Division III coaches at any time. So that gives them the opportunity to see that there's good programs there, and there's times you can find more money available through academic scholarships that they can find and help with and
hmm
endow whatever, than since they don't have athletic scholarships per se. I played in an NAIA baseball school and I had an academic scholarship and I was an okay student. I mean, I
hmm
wasn't anything great, but they're very liberal with those because they are an academic institution. But it also gets you used to talking to coaches and gets you not as afraid of those questions that come back at you. So that's always something for younger players to reach out to those NAIA schools. And I mean, gosh, I can't remember total how many schools are total in all four divisions really. And then you add in JUCOs. I mean, it's a lot of information to
hmm
figure out, but you got to know the teams you're talking to, and you got to get that experience of talking to them. And like I said, it'll just help you down the road in job interviews and everything else in life. Because regardless of what these little fun devices do for us, you do eventually have to talk to people.
yeah.
Um, so
Someone smart once told me, you always take the call, you always take the interview, right? So
yep,
if a coach expressed interest in you, take the call. It's only going to make you better as a student athlete going through the process, because maybe that coach says, or asks you a question that you hadn't really thought of before. Oh, I kind of like that, and it's okay, politely, after a quick call. Well, that's not what I'm looking for. That's not my ideal down the line. But as you're going through this process as a younger student athlete, you're able to then kind of shape what you're really looking for in a program. And is there going to be like that perfect opportunity? Maybe, but probably not. So you have to kind of pick and choose. Like what generally speaking, like what am I trying to find in a program? I was asked recruits, like, what are you looking for? Like, very open ended, or geographically, where are you open to go? So when I was at ULM, I regionally recruit a lot of kids from Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, because kids didn't want to go far from home. That's
right.
understandable. So geographically, draw a line on the map. I don't want to go anywhere cold. Okay, great. Come down south, right? So those are just questions that that athletes should be answering for themselves, and then that will help, or better help, kind of build their funnel, if you will.
Yeah, and the other thing is that you told me when Megan was going through her recruiting, or you told us, and you said it yesterday when you and I talked, is you respect every offer.
100%.
Because one, you never know where that coach may end up. Coaches move quickly sometimes, and the coach you turn down rudely might turn up at your dream school. And sometimes they may not be the head coach. Sometimes they may, take an assistant coach job somewhere. There's a lot of transition in coaches, and you don't want to develop a reputation as a player of, treating coaches wrong or ignoring them. You always want to be appreciative of offers because somebody is offering you a chance to have a paid-for college experience, and even in a walk-on stance of wanting you to come play that game at a high level for 4 more years, or in some cases apparently 11. But you've got to be respectful of every opportunity that comes your way. I think that's a great point that you made, and I think that's something that everybody needs to understand, no matter whether it's junior college, all the way up to SEC, Big Ten, top tier conferences. Is you've got to respect somebody that's wanting to invest in you. So, man, I think we're gonna wrap it up. I appreciate you coming on. Hope maybe down the road have you come back on again.
Yeah.
You've been a great resource for me. I've even sent you some kids' videos that were inquiring about really where do they fit. And I'm like, well, I'm not a Division I coach. I know somebody that was. Let me ask him just to give some reasonable options. And I think that speaks a lot of you that you're willing to still do that. And I hope you have great success down at Raleigh. I hope the thing I'm happiest about with you is you get to enjoy your kids probably a little more. What are they, 6 and 8?
6 and 8.
Oh gosh, man, I hope you got a lot of energy. Of course, I've asked Megan's coach. I said, how do you deal with a team of 18 girls, assistant coaches? You have he's got a very young daughter. And I said, you just got to have just emotions going every direction at all times. He said, yeah, that's all he could say. And I think his daughter's about 3, and she's a hoot. But it's a tough gig to have a young family, and for your sake, I'm glad that you're getting time at that age, because you don't get that time back. I mean, speaking to somebody that has 27-year-olds fixing to have a 21-year-old, those times don't last as long as you would think they would. So enjoy them, and I'm glad you're getting to spend them. And I really appreciate you coming on. Like I said, we're going to have some club coaches on. I'm going to have some creators, on some different aspects that can help kids get recruited, and maybe help them get videos cut, and there's a lot of people out there that want to help and don't want to rip you off. Now somebody's going to come take pictures or video of them. Yeah, you're going to pay them for their time, I would hope. But somebody that can just, shoot some advice out every once in a while and say, hey, here's maybe something you want to look at. There's lots of resources out there, and I appreciate you being a part of that movement of getting information out there that these folks can use, and we'll talk down the road. I appreciate you.
Sounds good. Yeah, good luck with the podcast.
Now, let's hope it records this time.
That's it. Hit save.
I will do so. Thanks, Charlie.
All right, man.